The following presentation has been sponsored by Hitachi Data Systems.
So we are going to talk about a very misunderstood topic today, data migration. It's one of those things I think that is an afterthought for many companies, but can be very complex if you don't do the right thinking about it up front. So let's start by talking about some of the factors that could result in a complex data migration, or the things that you need to watch out for as you're thinking about a new storage or data architecture.
One of the key factors that attributes to what we would consider a complex data migration is moving off of a single vendor's hardware to another vendor's hardware without a mechanism in place by either one of those vendors to be able to get that data easily from one array to the other with minimal downtime, or provide a path to that data through one of the arrays with limited downtime. There's only a couple vendors in the storage arena right now that provide that capability built into the arrays themselves. And in the mid-tier class, when you're migrating between vendors' mid-tier arrays, that functionality really doesn't exist. So you need to think of how you're going to get that data from array A to array B without it being a mechanism being provided for you.
So what are your options, though? What are actually the options? Is it that you have to use their particular plan, or that you could have some kind of service wrapped around the process, the procurement process, to help do that? I mean, what are the options that people have?
Well, as part of data migration, if you have some of the pieces of the OS architecture in place already, you might be able to do it yourself without involving services from a company. Or if you don't, there are services provided by companies like Agilysys and others that give the ability to offer data migration services, which takes the burden off of the IT administrators themselves of doing this. But built-in operating system functionality like disk mirroring, which is available in many logical volume managers, enables the presentation of the old disk and the new disk simultaneously, and just mirror the data over and be able to remove the old mirror and just run off the new mirror. But there are some cases in some operating systems where if specific settings aren't set prior to, then that may not be possible.
Is that what you call host-based?
That would be host-based mirrored data migration.
Okay,
yes.
So you have options that way, but it just depends on the equipment you're looking at, correct?
It depends on the logical volume manager that's installed in the host, like within Windows or Unix or Linux, or using something like Veritas Volume Manager. Those type of volume managers that are either embedded in the OS or third party provide that functionality.
So what do you do if you don't have a host-based migration option?
If you don't have a host-based migration option and you are going from between two different vendors, you have an inline option, which is an appliance-based option. The appliance-based option is generally provided as a service and is a piece of hardware that's stuck in your data stream. It can be done live. It's generally done with a small outage window and enables the mirroring of the data from your primary array to from your old array to your new array with a almost seamless migration effort and interruption of processing. Depending upon the appliance, there might be a small outage window occurred.
Okay. So you're talking about one vendor to another vendor,
Yes.
one type of storage to another type of storage. What if you have like a lot of different types of storage in your data center to begin with? What if it's a heterogeneous environment? Does that complicate things even further?
It complicates it even further, and you might have a mix of appliance-based migration going on with host-based migration, as well as if there's some vendors have virtualization technologies built into their arrays already, so that enables the virtualization and a new path, to the data through the virtualized, a virtualization capable array to your older array, so you're able to migrate that data to that virtualized capable array. There are many different aspects of how you get it done in that situation. That makes it very complex.
Okay. So how do you break it down and make it less complex? Is there a phased process that you can use? And typically, how long does this take? It sounds like, oh my goodness, this could take months or weeks at least to do this kind of migration. So how long does it take, and how do you make it more digestible?
One is just to have the migration plan up front. So if you understand what's in your environment already, to give an example is, if you have Windows, if you're using basic disk versus dynamic disk, one offers you a migration path, one doesn't. And another is what type of volume managers you have. Do you have arrays in your environment that provide a virtualization capability? Do you have a migration type appliance already? Are you going between similar arrays from the same vendor, which then you can use the array-based copy mechanisms between the two of them, be able to migrate.
That would be kind of like an upgrade scenario?
Yeah, an upgrade scenario or a refresh scenario
Right.
with the same vendor. The planning up front is, and understanding what you have enables more of a seamless plan to follow, that you're going to wind up with less hiccups. The time involved all depends if you're doing it as your own administration staff or an engineering staff. In large organizations, those administration staffs and engineering staffs have a lot of things on their plates.
Yes.
So that could, drag on a little bit if they're being interrupted with other things. And obviously is directly affected by how many terabytes you're moving, as well as the application's availability for downtime, the time that you can move that data without affecting the performance of the application, and those type of things, which are based on business unit requirements, SLAs.
Okay. So you actually probably would be running the old storage and the new storage simultaneous for some period of time until you could actually move over all the data at some point?
Yes, what you would be running both arrays side by side until you get to a final cut date. Because at that final cut date, when those final systems move over, all of your systems are running effectively and there are no problems. And then you can remove that array and scrub it and send it back to the vendor.
So it sounds like what you're telling me is that when a organization is thinking about updating or upgrading or switching their storage, that they should be putting all sorts of data migration questions to their RFP, to their request for new equipment. What questions would you include in that RFP?
Well, questions we ask when we've been receiving RFPs, I have to reverse it a little bit as in the position I'm in, is what operating systems are involved, what logical volume managers are on those operating systems, what mirroring capabilities operating systems have. So if I'm looking at host-based migration, are you migrating between similar vendor arrays?
Sure.
Because that makes it, obviously a much simpler migration path. Are you migrating to an array that has virtualization capabilities? And if none of those exist, what are the acceptable outage windows for your applications? What are the accepted performance degradation or maintenance windows you have to get this done? There are many things that we get back that we start asking questions when customers say, we just want to migrate data from X to X. Well, in order to be able to know how to migrate that data from X to X, a lot of these questions that I just mentioned.
Okay. So definitely a lot of planning up front. Mark, thank you for your insight on this very complex topic.